Hi everyone. Thank you for joining the Ask the Panel webinar today. We're just going to give it a minute or two to give people a chance to join, and then we will get started. Hi everyone. We're just going to give it one more minute just to give people a chance to join, and then we will get started. Hi everyone. I think we can get started now. So I just want to thank all of you for joining us for the Ask the Panel webinar today. So today we have Sean from Baby Bank Network and Christine from Bees Abroad, both Christmas Challenge Award winners from last year, just delivering presentations on their campaign from last year. So this is a great opportunity for charities to learn from one another. We're really excited to be hearing from them today. Before we begin, I'm just going to deliver some housekeeping just so everyone knows where to put their questions, etc. So firstly, you should all have the chat function at the bottom, on the right-hand side of your Zoom panel. Please use this as a way to introduce yourselves to each other, maybe do a bit of networking, and also share any ideas that you have. Also, if you have any tech issues, please put them in the chat box and we'll try and get to them as soon as possible. If you have any questions for the Q&A portion of the webinar, there is a Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom panel. Please put all questions in there and we will pick them up. I'll try to avoid putting them in the chat function as we can miss them. We would like to try and urge you to try and focus your questions more for our panelists today to try and make the best use of their time and so they can share their perspectives with you and answer any questions that you have. A reminder that we do have the Ask Us Anything webinar on Friday, where you can ask us more operational process related questions. And finally, if you have or need the transcription service, I think if you click on the More button at the bottom of your Zoom panel where there are three dots, you can turn that on if you do need that. But without further ado, we'll get started. So firstly, I'd like to introduce Christine from Bees Abroad, who won the Christmas Challenge Award last year, and she will be delivering a presentation on what they did to make a success of their campaign last year.
Thanks, Sahil. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So hi everyone, I'm Christine Ratcliffe and I'm the fundraising campaigns manager for Bees Abroad. I'm going to run through the key points of the case study that I wrote up from the campaign last year, what we did, some of the results and the lessons as well. And I'm going to try and mix in a few things that we're doing this year that we learned off the back of this case study exercise and from looking at all the other case studies as well. So if my screen works, there we go. So just quickly on Bees Abroad to give you some context, so you can get a good idea of how similar or not your charity is to ours. We're Bees Abroad and we use beekeeping as a tool to empower communities through sustainable beekeeping. We work with communities who come to us and ask for our support. Um, in terms of a bit more context, we've been around for over 25 years. So a very small charity, but a long legacy. And for most of that time, it was volunteer run, 100% volunteer run. They got the first member of staff in 2022, so a couple of years ago, and now we have 2.5 full-time staff. And in terms of our audience and supporters, that was initially built through the network of volunteers. And at present, we have around 1,500 newsletter subscribers. And our two main social media uh, um, like what are they called, profiles. Facebook, we have over 3,000 page likes, and Instagram over 1,000 followers. We also have Twitter, but we're using that less, and we're building our LinkedIn presence as well. Just quickly, in this photo, this is BC. She's one of our partnership managers. It's an unpaid role. She's amazing, and she's been with the charity pretty much since the beginning. This is her about 20 years ago. So the Christmas campaign last year, it was called This Beekeeper Can, and it was a play on the Nike campaign, This Girl Can. The campaign was to raise money for marginalized groups that we work with through beekeeping. So women's groups, widows groups. This is a widows group in the photo, people with disabilities. And the campaign message was, the people think that these beekeepers can't because they're women, because they have a disability, but we know they can. So we've tended to have a branding for the campaigns as well as our main branding. So this was the branding this year. In this year, 2024, we've got a campaign title, but we've decided to see how we go without a specific campaign brand. But it did seem to work quite well as something that was a bit different to our normal comms. So when you're looking through our Instagram, it's something a bit different, and it gets people used to the idea of the messaging running up to the big give. So there's schedule starting in September, releasing press releases for the Big Give. So as part of the Big Give, we usually run online events, publish stories in line with the theme, and do prize giving as well. So all of that goes into our press releases, and we have good contacts with magazines and publications, mostly beekeeping, but we're starting to get some contacts in other magazines and publications as well. So all those press releases go out as soon as possible. Certain contacts of ours, they have a 2 month kind of what's the word? They have a 2 month kind of run time, so you have to get in there quite quick. Others we left a bit longer to kind of try and fit with their publishing times. And then the following 3 months are really kind of ramping up in terms of the promotion and communications, and starting to do online events. So last year we had 2 online events. One was before the Big Give as a kind of a warm up introduction to the Big Give, and there was one during the Big Give week itself, and I'll come back to those. Our common strategy. So the 2023 Big Give was the first time we'd segregated our communications. So we started using a CRM, and which allowed us to do this. And we segregated them into two broad groups, so existing donors and new donors. And under that there were subcategories as well. So for our existing donors, the key message was one donation, double the impact, and a chance to double their donation. So these are people who already want to support us. They've given us money before, and the most interesting thing for them for the Big Give, from what we understand, is the chance for them to double the impact they make through their donation. We actually have a couple, now we've been doing this a couple of years, I think since 2021 or 2022. Some of our donors have really cottoned on to it and saved their money through the year for the Christmas campaign specifically. So we do have donors that are now donating quite big chunks as they save up through the year for this. Our other audience was new donors, and the lowest hanging fruit there was existing followers who had not previously donated. So we have a lot of newsletter subscribers that aren't donors yet, and a lot of people on social media who also are supporters and interested in our work but haven't donated. And the message there was this beekeeper can, and the stories around that as well to kind of increase their interest in what we're doing. The followers are already interested in what we're doing. They just need a nudge to donate. So that was the kind of idea with that segment. So quite a few different channels. I mentioned the press releases before, and the newsletter. So obviously the newsletter is the most direct way to get to reach our audience. We have a really good open rate on our newsletters, so we see that as the best way to reach our supporters. Social media as well. So we ramped up the Big Give posts as we went. So started in October, mixing it in with our other usual social media posts, and then as we get closer, it intensifies until it's pretty much all about the Big Give during the week with daily posts. We also had hard copy promotion materials, so postcards and bookmarks for this campaign. We have a really strong supporter base in terms of our volunteers. So I think over 20 regular volunteers who are our partnership managers. That's an unpaid role, and other volunteers as well. And so bringing them into the campaign and asking them to spread the word in their network. Whoever was up for doing that got a pack of postcards and bookmarks. A lot of our volunteers are beekeepers as well, and they are members of beekeeping groups. So we invited them to take these materials to the meetups. On the back of these postcards, there was a QR code and the campaign details. We also, with the promotion materials, so one of the sub segments of our existing audience is major donors, and major donors received a postcard with a handwritten letter thanking them for their support in the year. We looked at our CRM to see what the support was and were specific about the thanks that we gave them, and invited them to have their donation doubled. And we had a really good response rate. I was trying to dig out the stats that I calculated on that, but it was significantly higher donations from that group, which you might expect because they are major donors, but it did seem to make a difference. I actually went to a webinar a few months ago that from a fundraising expert that said ask, thank, report, repeat. And this postcard was kind of a thank and ask in one. And this campaign in 2024, we've done more of the reporting and thanking using our annual report. And I'll come back to that if I have time. So the content for the Big Give, so we had our impact stories, as these are stories from our projects that are related to the thing, and those were published on a regular basis and shared in our newsletter and converted into social media posts as well. They also sent out to our contacts at magazines to publish as stories alongside the press release. Online events, these were one of the best ways to get new supporters in particular. So we got quite a few new people through these events and new newsletter subscribers. So we asked our high profile supporters and new people who with a speaker's presence who or an interesting profile with a good network that was related to the theme. And then it was a really good way to tap into the network of the speakers. So those events were really successful. We also had a number of prizes donated from our corporate supporters, in-kind support, and we used those to incentivize giving during the big give. And I did see this in another case study, using an auction of a prize, and the winner of the auction donates the money to during the big give. So that we did a similar thing, but it was 7 days, 7 prizes. If you donated on that day, you had a chance of winning a prize. I think you do have to be careful with gift aid in this case. So if it's something like an auction, it can't be gift aided. So just a note on that if you're thinking about doing it. The costs, the vast majority of the costs were my time. The rest of them was printed materials and advertising on Meta. So we did use paid advertising, a small budget of about £40 to promote the events on Facebook and Instagram. We hit our target and just over, and with around a quarter of the donors being new to us. I would love to know where they came from. I'm not 100% sure. I'd love to see like a map of how people are coming into the Big Give page. But yeah, that was great to see. In terms of our results, we had 75 new newsletter subscribers from a couple of different sources. So the events, our website that included an incentivized sign up to win a book, and the Big Give itself. Social media, best performance was on Facebook. Everything went up in terms of our engagement during the Big Give and through our comms on that. I think I've only got about a minute left, but I think I've only got a couple of slides as well, so hopefully we'll get there. As I said, the events were a big one for us, using external speakers who had a good network themselves. Some of we had a look at our donations and the attendees from events, and a number of the attendees had donated. And between those people who've been attendees who've been channeled into the Big Give. That's I don't really like that term, but and the people donating to attend these events as well. We raised nearly £500 from those two events, and it was just a great way to thank our supporters and reach new people too. Yeah, so just lastly, the lessons, audience segmentation. We did a lot more in the green campaign the following spring, and a lot more segregated communication, emails as well as the message. The single kind of campaign theme on this speaker can't seem to work really well. As I said a couple of times, the external speakers and online events also worked well. The improving on was just kind of giving us more time and doing more promotions. Essentially, as I said, we've done more comms personalization in the Green Give and again in this Christmas campaign. And I think I'm over time, so thank you. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, Christine, and no worries for being slightly over. Definitely worth hearing your thoughts and really great presentation. Really interested to know about like how the auction works, etc. And I think we'll have some questions about that. So yeah, looking forward to hearing more about that. I'll now introduce Sean from Baby Bank Network, who again they won the best, I believe it was the best newcomer award for the Christmas challenge last year. So yeah, over to Sean.
Hi everyone, I'll just share my screen. Give me a second. Okay, is that all right? Because everyone's seeing?
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm Sean from the Baby Bank Network. I'm the fundraising and communications coordinator. It's just a picture of our team with one of our Christmas appeal photo shoots we did, just to give you a bit of an idea of what things look like. So yeah, in terms of Baby Bank, we're a small local Bristol-based charity. There are over 300 baby banks across the UK. The one that I work for in Bristol was established in 2015, and in that time we've helped over 10,000 families. We provide pre-loved baby essentials for families in Bristol, and some new items like toiletries, nappies and cot mattresses. We support around 40 families a week, and then over winter that increases to around 50 or 60. We give out over 1,200 toiletry packs for new mums and babies every year. And we rely on donations from the community, businesses, for those items, or obviously some of them we have to fund through our fundraising, and toiletries is a big one of those for us. In terms of the size of our charity, we're very small compared to some of the other charities that do the big give. So we have a board of trustees. We have around 20 volunteers who work in our warehouse, and they sort the donations, they check them, they clean them, and then they get the bundles ready for the families. And we have 4 part-time members of staff. We work with over 400 referral partners across Bristol, so they can be people like social workers, midwives, doctors, children's centres, other voluntary organisations that work with families, and they make the referrals into us of what the families need, and they collect those items as well. So we don't work directly with the families themselves. Most of our income comes from grants. We've got a small number of regular givers, and that's something we're trying to develop. But the Christmas campaign is our kind of big campaign of the year. Just in terms of the families that we work with, so 1 in 5 children in Bristol are living in poverty, and aside from poverty, the families we support are often facing other crises like homelessness or risk of homelessness, domestic abuse, seeking refuge or asylum, may have mental health issues, or be young mums under 21. So our primary purpose is to ensure that they have the real basics for their babies and children. And another thing that we do is also try to promote the reuse of items, so in terms of reducing the impact on the environment as well. Just a quick snapshot from our last annual report. So from last year, we helped 1,798 families, and over 82,000 items were redistributed. In terms of the big give, so this was last year was our first match funded campaign we'd ever done. We decided to focus it on unrestricted funds, because that's one of the areas that we find most difficult to fundraise for. Sorry, and is one of the most needed. Because as I said, we spend a large amount of money on toiletries every year to top up from the ones that we're donated. We decided to develop our theme from the previous year, and we trialled a Christmas campaign in 2022, which wasn't match funded, and our Christmas campaign is called the Santa Sack Appeal. And we've carried that on, and we're using that as well this year. So that's kind of become our Christmas campaign title. It was focused on toiletries, and we had a main call to action, which was the big give. So any financial donations, we were pointing towards the big give. We also had a secondary call to action, where we asked organisations, businesses, schools, other community groups to organise a toiletries collection in their place of work or their school. We knew that was could be a risk, obviously sort of splitting up our call to action, but it had worked well the previous year, and so we decided to develop it, and it did actually work really well for us, because we were able to, I think, engage groups that may not have engaged if we were just asking them for a financial ask, but actually they were able to share our promotion for the big give with their audiences as well, and their networks. So it kind of broadened our spread of people we were able to reach. Our target for the big give was £8,000. So it was 2,000 pledges, 2,000 champion funding, and £4,000 in donations. We tried to do something that was realistic but a little bit ambitious, and then it sort of exceeded our expectations. Basically, we raised over £10,000 in donations, and then obviously gift aid on top of that was nearly £1,000 as well. In terms of donations, so on average, a donation was £62. We had donations that ranged from £2 to £2,000. We were really lucky on the penultimate day, I think it was, of the campaign. We had a donation of £2,000 from somebody that was unknown to us, so that was incredible. In terms of people who donated, we had 97 donations in total. 79 of those were new donors, so they'd not donated financially to us before, and 18 were existing donors, and 7 of those 18 were regular donors. And we kind of used the hook of £8,000 could help us provide 4,000 toiletry packs for mums and babies, which are approximately £20 per pack. So that was kind of how we packaged it up and promoted it. So yeah, overall it was brilliant for us, and yeah, far exceeded our expectations. In terms of how we got there, we also had a new database, a new supporter database, or CRM, and I think being part of the Big Give really gave us the impetus to do that, because we'd been talking about it for a while. But having the deadline of the Big Give, it really made us focus on that. So that was really helpful, because we had a much better idea of who our audiences were and our supporters. And then at the same time, we reviewed all of our MailChimp and did a kind of big data cleansing, and also did some work on audience segmentation so that we could target our newsletters much better for the campaign. Including things, so we have sort of volunteers, referral partners, regular givers, and then we also were able to look at people who donated to the Christmas campaign before, people who'd made maybe a one-off donation, so we were able to tailor the comms much better. Obviously we had a project plan and a timeline. I'm a real fan of a Gantt chart, so I always do one of those. We had comms plans, which were broken down individually to different channels, which I'll talk a bit about. We'd had some donation days booked in at supermarkets. We'd had them booked in earlier in the year, and we moved one of them so that they were both happening during campaign week. So we just tried to kind of capitalise on that and have events during campaign week. We produced a set of campaign assets. So we have a volunteer designer who we're lucky enough does some of our work for our kind of bigger campaigns, and she produced the main assets, and then I did use Canva to produce a lot of the stuff for social media. So I'd really recommend Canva, actually, if anyone doesn't use that. It's a really good tool. We collected case studies from referral partners. We find it really difficult to get testimonials from the families that we support because we don't work directly with them. So we looked at other people that can give us those. So referral partners for us is a good one. And we obviously made plans for the events and recruited volunteers for those from within our existing network of volunteers. We had a campaign page on our website which went up in early November. This year we've already got that up. We got that up as soon as we got the go ahead from Big Give. We got that up as soon as we could. I think that's been really important for us. And we did lots of pre-launch comms, so newsletters and social media. We did one press release, I think, possibly two, actually, now I'm thinking about, one before the launch, and then I think we did one when the campaign started. We don't have we have a few connections with local media, but it's definitely an area that we're trying to improve on. So, but we did get a couple of radio interviews from that and some online articles, so it's definitely worth doing. Newsletters is a really big one for us. So we had, I think, around 1,500 subscribers when we launched the Christmas campaign last year. We're now nearer to the kind of 2,000 mark. But we got something out in early November. In terms of this year, we're actually getting something out this week. So everything we've tried to bring a little bit earlier this year. And I think that's something I'd say to people is get information out as soon as you can, really. We did a newsletter the week before the campaign launched, and then one as soon as we could on midday or just after it launched. We did another one on Friday evening of the campaign, an update of where we are and a kind of reminder to donate, and that one worked well. For us, that Friday, for us, evenings are a good time to send things to our supporters because that's when they're quite active. And then we did one the day after the campaign had ended, thanking people, and then a further thanks and update the week after. We also utilised WhatsApp with our staff and trustees and volunteers. So we shared a template message for them to pass on, and also used it to kind of update them and motivate them throughout the campaign. This is just an example of one of our newsletters. So this was the one that went out on the day that the campaign launched, which was also Giving Tuesday. So we made sure to mention that. Tried to keep them simple and as concise as we can, and started utilising actually the donate the buttons in MailChimp, which we hadn't really used before. So I think they worked well as well. And with all of this stuff, I just always made sure that somebody else proofread them, just in case. So that's another thing I'd always recommend. In terms of social media, so we only used organic posts. We don't really have budget for paid advertising on social media. In terms of our followers, so we've got around, I think it's 8,000, nearly 9,000 followers on Facebook, and that's by far our biggest channel for our audiences. We've got, I think it's just about 2,000 on Instagram at the moment, and that's grown over the last year or two. We also use Twitter, but again, it's something that we're not using as much at the moment, so we tend to focus on Facebook and Instagram. We also make sure to schedule content when our followers are most active, so you can see that in the Meta platform. And for us, as I said, that's the evening. We did do multiple posts each day during campaign week, so we would just save the best content for the evening. On the day that the appeal launched, we did a short film from our chair of trustees. We don't often do film content, so it was just something a bit different, and it was literally a message from her introducing the campaign and asking people to donate, and then just a kind of title slide on Canva that I added, so it wasn't complicated, but that was something a bit different for us. We reshared the Big Give content, so made use of that as well, because that was great, and it gave us extra things to share that's a bit different to our normal things. We did also continue to use to share non-campaign related content as well during that week, not lots, but just a few bits, so that people weren't kind of oversaturated with the campaign. And then we made sure to thank people as well during campaign week, keeping them updated on where we were with the Big Give donations, but also if people were donating lots of gifts in kind toiletries, we were able to take photos of them at the warehouse and thank them. So it was kind of another thing to tie to help sort of promote, really. I mentioned we did a couple of events in campaign week. So we had 2 donation days at supermarkets and a sort of information stall at the mall in Bristol. We tried where possible to get volunteers to run those, and also we had some volunteers running stands at their children's Christmas fairs at their schools, which was great as well. And also a few of the kind of companies that we work with, some of the cafes and things had Christmas fairs, and we were able to have a stand and stall at those as well. So we just tried to sort of utilize whatever connections we had already with those, and we also had printed posters and leaflets on with the QR code, so we were able to give those to people and they could go directly to the Big Give page and donate. We obviously, it's difficult to know exactly how well that worked, because when people went straight to the page, you don't always know where they've come from. So but it was getting the message out there to as many people as possible. We also had supporters who donated funds from events that they'd organised sort of just before or during campaign week, and that worked really well. So that's something we're kind of trying to promote a bit more this year, and also trying to look at promoting with schools more, because it's a real natural connection for us, with lots of our volunteers having children or grandchildren at school. So that's an area we're trying to focus on a bit more this year. And actually, we've not booked in to do any like supermarket donation days at the moment. So we kind of refocused a bit with that. After the campaign, really important to thank. We made sure that we thanked our pledges, those that were happy to be thanked publicly on social media, and our Big Give champions, the Reed Foundation. So we did that on social media. We sent emails to our financial donors as soon as the campaign had ended. We emailed our volunteers and used WhatsApp to thank them for their support. We also thanked everybody else, all our other supporters on our mailing list, because lots of them will have shared the campaign with people. And then people who donated over £100, we sent them an extra special individual email, and took a kind of team photo and said thank you, as a little extra thanks to them. And we obviously said lots of thanks on social media. And we personalised those wherever we could. And obviously we were only thanking people that we had consent to do so in terms of GDPR. I've mentioned some of the results already, but obviously the campaign sort of exceeded our expectations. As well as that, we had 1,850 in sort of unmatched donations, where people, for whatever reason, weren't able to donate to the Big Give. We had one previous funder who we approached to be a pledger, and they couldn't pledge for us, but actually they then gave us a grant of £1,000 as well. So it was those kinds of unexpected consequences that you can't predict at the beginning. We estimated for the first time ever the gifts in kind that we'd had, and we estimated we had over £4,000 from that. And then we got some money from applying for the Big Give Awards and becoming the best newcomer. So overall, everything included, we raised over £17,000, which was a huge increase from the year before. And actually was our best public facing campaign that we'd ever done. So that's fantastic. In terms of our communications, yeah, all of our kind of reach and followers, everything went up on social media. Our reach on Facebook went up 8.5%, and on Instagram 9.6%. And our 3 most popular posts had a reach of over 1,000 on Facebook. In terms of our campaign newsletters, so we had 17 individual newsletters that went out which mentioned the campaign. That includes all the different audiences. So for example, it might be one newsletter that was tailored for, say, 5 different audiences, and our average open rate over those was around 44%. So those worked well, we think. And then, sorry, I've gone on quite a bit, just some reflections and learning. So lots of benefits, fundraising. We developed relationships with new and existing supporters. As I mentioned, we reignited a relationship with a previous funder. It also really motivated our team to work together on a campaign, which I think was the first time it happened in this way, which was great. And we also improved our internal systems, and developed our marketing and social media skills. In terms of learning and tips, so planning as much as you can, as far ahead as possible. Project team, getting everybody you can on board. People can play different roles, and just finding out what people can do to support, and making everyone feel part of that, I think, and motivated is really good. In terms of the admin systems, making sure they're ready and tested. I do remember, because we introduced a new CRM and updated all our MailChimp, and there was, the week before the campaign, there was a lot of kind of testing and making sure everything was working properly. So just doing that as far in advance as possible. In terms of communications, I've talked about tailoring to audiences, preparing as much as possible, having options so that you can adapt to a range of scenarios during the campaign as well, because obviously you don't quite know how it's going to go. So whether you've reached your target, still having comms to go out, or whether you're still trying to get to your target, having comms that you can adapt quite easily. And also scheduling comms to go out when it suits your followers. Case studies, again, collect those in advance as much as you can. QR codes were really good to have on any printed materials. And backup plans, I would say as well, for during campaign week. You never know what's going to happen. It just so happened that my daughter was ill during that week, so you know, we hadn't planned for that. So I think it's just thinking about making sure everything's there, that someone else could pick it up if need be. For us, it's me that does all of this. So it's planning for the unexpected, I guess. And then in terms of events, thinking about having a strategy and being selective of what will work for you. Utilizing the Big Give marketing materials, because there's a great suite of things for you there to use. And if you can, I would also say apply for the Big Give awards, because I don't think we really expected to win that, but obviously we won the newcomer award, and that was a real bonus for us to do that. So yeah, give it a go if you can. I think that's it.
Thank you, Sean. That was a really great presentation. A lot of points to consider, and a lot of good insights for everyone to take away. I think we do have quite a few questions that have already come in. So we can get started. Firstly, this is for Christine from Caroline. Did you run the auction on your own website? Interested to know the tools used, as a lot of auction sites charge fees, so it would be confusing to get that through the Big Give website practically.
Yeah, that's the problem we wrestled with, and we ended up doing incentivizing donations rather than an auction. So I saw the auction in a different charity case study. We did a 7 days, 7 prizes. We'd got prizes in kind, hotel stays and things like that. And we said, if you donate on any given day, you have a chance to be thanked through a gift. So that's how we did it. It was an incentive rather than a kind of an extra payment thing. This year we're doing something different again. We've a lot of our, as I said, supporters are beekeepers, and we had someone with a very big following who has his own honey and beekeeping company donate a specialist prize. And we're saying enter a competition. So we've created a competition. That's a way, if you, with the regulations around gambling, if you create like a prize competition where you have to have a skill, in this case, someone has to be able to identify a specific thing in 3 different photos of bees. So they have to identify like something within a photo, which is, obviously you can't Google that. You have to know. So they complete that form, and then they'll get emailed when the Big Give starts. If their answers are correct and they donate, then they win the prize. So that's what we're doing this year.
That's a really helpful tips for how to run an auction with the Christmas challenge. Beth, do you have any questions that you want to flag?
Yeah, we've had a question here, and I guess either of you could potentially answer this. Did you have a process for getting your regular donors to divert their donation to the campaign week to get it matched? Obviously, keeping in mind that this might be a hassle for like individual donors. So did you have a way to kind of navigate that?
I'll give a go answering that. I was just thinking about that this morning actually, and trying to remember what we did with our regular givers, and we had a conversation about that, and I think in the end we decided not to ask them to divert their donation specifically, because when we thought about the logistics of that, we were a bit concerned that it might confuse people's regular gift, and maybe some people would stop it and we'd lose it. So in the end we tailored their emails to I think we said if they were able to give an extra gift, that would be fantastic, but there was sort of no expectation of that. And otherwise to ask them to help to share our campaign with their networks. So I think it's you definitely have to tailor that email differently, because you don't want to be sending them the same ask as everyone else. But it depends, I think, on your systems and what you think your regular donors would be would be happy to do, but we didn't do that time. I think I'd heard another charity say that in one of the webinars last year that they'd done it, and when we looked at our systems, we just thought it might be a bit of a risk for us, so we just approached it in a different way.
Great. I don't know if either of you have any tips for engaging with trusts and foundations during the campaign, or if you tried to do that at all.
So we this year with the pledges, so we went for the biggest our biggest yet. Last year we also went for a £50,000 target, but only got less than that through the champion. And so this year, and we thought that might, I don't know if it's actually affected by having more pledges, but this year it's more about pledges than it is trusts and foundations. So I created a slide deck to send out to actually trusts and high net worth supporters to say become a pledger, and that the pledger is the first thing that unlocks the rest of it. So if you become a pledger, you'll be like the initiator of this £50,000 target. So yeah, we created a slide deck pitch to send to trusts and foundations and high net worth supporters. I would say high net worth, they're our biggest supporters. And we got someone to become a pledger who hadn't been before by doing that.
That's really good advice. Yeah, trusts and foundations may be better suited to be pledgers. And this is a question for either of you, and I think Betty can also chip in on this one, is how do you make your press releases newsy? This is a challenge for Hattie Rowan at the moment.
I think from just kind of Big Good's experience, most of the time with just our regular campaign press releases, they work kind of as standard normally with kind of trade charity press. So even if you don't have a particularly newsy piece, you could still potentially get something in like Fundraising Magazine and stuff, but you might not necessarily be targeting the right audience. In terms of getting it newsy, it's normally kind of one or two things. One, linking to kind of current news that's going on in the moment. So you have to be quite reactive to things you're seeing online. But for example, say the budget's coming out in this month, I believe. So if you had something that linked to the budget, that might be picked up in the news. Also, if you have potentially either one of your kind of leaders of your organization, like a CEO, or even if you have a high profile ambassador and they're willing to say something a bit topical. So this is something, they'd have to take a kind of strong stance on something normally. But that could be good to target particular press, such as, I don't know, like the Telegraphs, the Daily Mails, things like that, where those kind of newsy topics will be brought up. But obviously not all charities can take that quite hard stance. So it would have to, be discussed within your organization, but there are two potential ways to make it a bit more newsy.
I got a question for Christine and Sean. How did you add individual donors to your CRMs? Do you just add each donor individually and manually during the campaign week?
You want to go, Sean?
So you go.
So ours, we're trying to use we use something called HubSpot now, and they allow kind of is it native forms? So if you submit a form, you can create forms in HubSpot, and it like links the entry of the form to the profile. So if they submit their email, then it's like connected to the contact in there. It was a big job, like creating the CRM, and we're still going through that kind of data cleaning from moving everyone over from MailChimp and our like volunteers' individual like emails and little address books. So it's a big, it's a really big exercise, and yeah, something we're still like working through.
Great. And maybe a follow-on question for Sean related to donors is how did you get the addresses of donors for £100 if Big Give doesn't allow to use addresses collected by them? And just to clarify, in your donation report, you will see the names of donors, their home addresses if they've opted in for gift aid, and any donor that's opted in to be added to your marketing list, you'll see their email address. The home address should only be used if you're submitting your own gift aid claims. You can't, um, privacy policy doesn't cover contacting donors via direct mail. But I don't know, Sean, if you already had the addresses for donors over £100, or if you email them and then ask for the addresses.
So yeah, I probably did make this clear. So when we emailed them an individual email, so we did a kind of a general thanks to anyone who donated via MailChimp, but personalised that with their name. But then we did an individual email follow-up thank you to people who donated over £100. So we didn't do any postal thanking to anybody. We don't really tend to do that. We've done it once a year with some of our regular givers where we can, but yeah, we didn't do any postal thank yous. So.
Great. Beth, do you have any questions? Oh, Beth, we've lost your mic.
Oh, what about now?
Yep, you're
Okay,
back.
cool. Yeah, maybe you can answer this one. Someone's just asking about what it means for a gift to be matched, so maybe you can just go into a bit of detail there.
Yeah, so basically a gift or a donation is matched during the campaign by the pledges and any champion funds you've been awarded. So if you've applied for the Christmas challenge, you would have that match funding pot comprising of the pledge funds and possibly champion funds. And then donations made during that campaign, we are matched by that match funding pot. So if someone donates £5, it's then matched from that match funding pot. And yeah, so you'll see on your campaign page, if someone donates £5, the total ISA will go up to £10, and you'll have a bit less match funds available because they've been used up. But if you have any queries about how the campaign mechanics works, you can email us at hello@biggift.org for any further clarifications.
Thanks, Sahil. I'm going to got a couple more questions coming in here. So Lisa asked, how do you keep track of stats and how much money has been donated to your campaign so far during the week, etc.?
I use so on the Big Give platform, you can download the data as a CSV. So we downloaded that and then did a load of cross-checking. So we ran a filter on our database to look at our other donors so we could see who was an existing donor, who was new, um, and that kind of thing. The case study exercise meant that I could set aside a lot of or a reasonable amount of time to do some analysis. But yeah, that CSV file from the back end of the Big Give was really, really useful for us.
And a question for either of you is, have you used paid socials for the campaign? If so, how successful have you found it?
I think Sean said you didn't.
No, we haven't used any paid budget for socials, no.
Yeah, we did. We had a small budget with varying success. So one of ours our boosted we did a boosted Instagram post for an event to try and get more people. 35 people clicked on the link and we spent £6.66. That feels like quite a good return. Other events, we spent £25 and only got 18 event responses, which is a bit different to clicks. So yeah, we do have a small budget for that, and it does seem to generate click-throughs. We also did a video that had a reach of nearly 4,000. So it's really difficult to tell if that's actually helping with the repeatedly seeing a message. But yeah, we had a small budget of about 15 to 20 per ad and about 2 ads per campaign, so about £40 in total.
Great. A question from Julia for Sian is, which CRM do you use and would you recommend it?
We started using Beacon about a year ago, and yes, I would recommend it. I've used a few databases over the years, and I think it's the most user-friendly one that I've ever come across. Luckily for me, I don't have to do the updating in the background because my boss does that. So she does all the uploading, but it does connect with MailChimp and things like that automatically. So, but from a user's point of view, I find it really easy to use. I mean, it's an ongoing process, as Christine said. We're still getting used to it. We're still learning how to use it properly, and that's ongoing. But yeah, and for us, I can only speak from a small organisation point of view. It is a really good one, I'd say.
Thanks, Sian. We've had a couple of questions actually about Google Ads. I know Sahil, we've done some in the past, but I'm not sure if Christine or Sian, you've used Google Ads before.
No, we haven't used them, so I'd be really interested to hear.
We didn't use them last year. We have got one of the charity Google Ads budgets that you can apply for, and actually we've got a local corporate partner that specializes in digital marketing, and they're doing some pro bono work for us, and they've actually just started managing that for us. So, but that's just happened in the last couple of months, so we haven't really got any feeling yet of how it's working for us, and obviously not over a campaign. But you can get some budget as a charity. You have to apply for it, and then but yeah, I'm not actually managing it, so I can't give any information on that, sorry.
And just a reminder, we did run a webinar on digital ads, with a particular focus on Google Ads last week, and that is on our YouTube channel if you do want to find out a bit more about the basics of Google Ads. A question for both of you is, I think maybe Helen's planning for next year as well, is who did you approach for pledges, just major donors, and how far ahead did you approach them to be a pledger?
We're really lucky in that our trustees have a good network. So one of our pledges was via a trustee with a really long established relationship. So I didn't really have to do anything there. It was all the trustees' work. The top-up pledge was, as I said, that kind of slide deck pitch on why you should become a pledger, which yeah seemed to work well with sending to the other trusts and high value supporters, as I said. Yeah.
Would you like to say a bit about our pledges?
Yes, please. Yeah, that'd be good to know.
Yeah, so we last year we kind of went out to lots of contacts. It was a completely new thing for us to be doing. So we had a couple of pledges from companies that we work with. We were for one of those we were their charity of the year last year, so it was a really good kind of opportunity to do that. Another one was somebody who's supported us pro bono for a number of years, and so we have a really good relationship with them. And then last year we had a few individuals who donated smaller amounts of pledges for us, who were connected with us in some way, like long term. We said last year that we needed to do that much earlier, and it was going to be on our radar for the beginning of the year. It didn't quite work like that for us this year. So, but we were really lucky in that, again, we had one of the businesses that came on as a partner actually from our last Christmas campaign and has been working with us throughout the year. They made a pledge, and then we were fortunate that another company that's also been partnering with us, they had a trust and foundation that they manage that has also pledged this year. So it was much quicker and easier for us this year, because we'd kind of trialed it once. But so those are the sorts of connections really that worked best for us. But again, I would, you know, if we do it next year, I'll be thinking get out as early as possible and they have those conversations. It just makes it easier for everybody when you get to this sort of summertime.
Great. Just one. That was just Catherine just responding. I think we've answered all the questions and it's bang on 1 o'clock. So I just want to firstly thank Christine and Sian for giving up time out of their day to join us today and share their case studies from last year. They were really great and a lot of useful tips for charities to take forward. I want to thank all of you for attending today. A reminder that we have our Ask Us Anything webinar at 12 p.m. on Friday. So that's a free-for-all, ask us any and all of your questions. But with that in mind, we will post this webinar on our YouTube channel and you can share it and watch it back with colleagues. But I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.